Yo, welcome to another episode of the Bjj Goons podcast. I'm your host, Tim, the Mushmaster Spriggs, and with me as always, every week is...
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Nico Ball, no new Nico. Glad to be back. Almost to the point where I can be walking around. I'm at least out of the house. I've been like on another lockdown, fourth lockdown.
A fourth lockdown.
Forced lockdown, but yeah, maybe it is like a fourth. Who knows?
I'm used to being inside so much that when I go outside, it feels very strange. It's like exciting but terrifying at the same time.
What is the current lockdown status in Maryland?
I don't really think there is a lockdown status anywhere in the United States anymore.
But like they're starting back with the mask mandates. Like, do you have to have one? Not everywhere though. It's confusing.
Has it ever ended?
It did end for like a month, in like at least a month.
For real?
Yeah. Where you didn't have to wear it inside if you were fully vaccinated. But again, there's no way to tell if you're vaccinated or not. So it's like everybody just took their masks off.
Well, you could always have your card with you, but now people are saying it's like we live in Nazi Germany if we have vaccination cards or you have immunization standards as if
Yeah.
we haven't been immunized since birth, at least in the United States.
I know, but there's no way, like, yeah, it's just weird. But you don't, it's one thing, you need to get your immunizations to go to school. But that it's a new precedent having it be required to go to a restaurant or to a concert. And it's definitely a rise of a new bootlegging or counterfeiting enterprise.
Yeah. You know what's funny, man? I'm in these group chats with people, and one in particular, there's people that claim to be really smart, and they have influence over people, or they claim to. And I think a theme for this episode is going to be just because you're good at one thing does not mean you, or just because you know a lot about one thing, you know about everything.
Wait, tell me this is not the person that I was talking about this week. Because you're in a group chat with him, I'll die.
It's a group chat, but it's
And
not.
if that's who you're talking about, I'm gonna die laughing.
It is.
Oh my God, you have a personal direct line to that bullshit? I had to unfollow it.
You know, at this point,
I can only imagine the shit that goes on in the group chat. I'm trying to see that once we stop filming.
you know, sometimes it's like a car wreck. You can't help but look.
Oh,
it's like
yeah,
I'm
that's why I want
rubbernecking.
to see the chat. That's why I want to see.
I'm
It's like, oh
rubbernecking.
my God, if what I see on social media is the public.
But here's the thing, right?
Oh, and if both of them were in the chat too and you were getting that, oh, I would have to get out of
No,
that.
not both.
I would
Just
have to
one.
silence that for a year. You know.
But the thing is, I'm in this group chat with people, and in reference to the Rona, they're talking about all these stats and figures and all these alternative means of therapeutic recovery from it. And like they're talking about, oh, Joe Rogan isn't crazy for taking ivermectin or whatever. And I'm sitting to myself thinking like, you're going to go through all this trouble to get counterfeit immunization cards. You're going to go through all this trouble taking all these different types of weird ass medicines. Bro, the vaccine is free. Like, why are you going to go through all this shit just to avoid just a simple answer? It's like having an answer to a test and still failing. Like, bro, like, what is going on? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I kind of want to stop being a member of this group chat, but I love
You just have to silence it. Don't get out of it. Just silence it. So
I
you don't get the
do.
notifications.
I do.
You know, that's really important.
But every once in a while, I just got to look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just got to look. But yeah, you are on lockdown no longer. You're moving around. I'm glad to have you back in the studio. I'm happy that, you know, even though you have a RoboCop leg, that you're moving about and you're pain free.
Yeah, I started doing physical therapy that I got to do like 2-3 times a week, and it was really cool because the guy told me that the fact that I can already get like 90 degrees is really good, that most people have a hard time like being able to bend their leg up to a 90-degree angle, and they have to work to get to that they're so tight. But he said I'm really flexible, so that means, you know, you really actually have to be careful not to overstretch. And for some reason, like, I haven't been in any pain really since the surgery. Like, before the surgery, my pain level was like at a 10. I wasn't able to like go through a whole day without it like interrupting something I was doing, and now I just feel a lot better. Learning the art of crutches. Learned that I drop a lot of shit in places that I can't reach when it's hard to bend down.
But that's why you got the gripper.
Yeah, but I just dropped shit with the gripper actually. Like off air, I dropped the candle. Tim's gonna kill me if I break his wrestling
Oh
candle.
my God, the Ric Flair candle. Like,
Oh
please don't.
yeah, but it's dope. So I was really worried. I kept waiting for like the pain to come. I was like, all right, maybe after the hospital drugs will wear off, like, and I'm only on the prescription drugs, the pain will come. And then I stopped taking the prescription drugs, and it's still not hurting. And then I went to physical therapy, and I was expecting to be real sore after that, but it's not bad at all.
No,
And
not
then
at all.
for those of you that don't know, I had surgery for a torn labrum, which is like a ligament or a muscle that's in your shoulders and your hip. So mine is in my hip.
Shit. Well, I'm glad that you're back. And you've done a lot of research since you were last in the studio. You gave me a lot of information about very troubling subculture in the jiu-jitsu world, but one that has been intertwined in this art that we so love and participate in. Would you like to elaborate on?
Yeah, so September 7th, and we're filming this on September 11th actually, was the Brazilian Independence Day. So I went on Instagram, and you know how I always talk about curating your community, and I don't know how it got through. And I'm like, wait, did I actually see Mario Spari's post, or did I see something on the South Paul podcast? But I think maybe I even stumbled onto Mario, and it was just something like promoting, like, oh yeah, Brazil, this is the way to go and stuff. Because if you don't know, in Brazil on the Independence Day, they were kind of planning like an insurrection, trying to like follow like the American wave of insurrection.
Wow.
And
Yeah, I
so
saw that. No, go ahead.
Mario Spari posted something like supporting that, and I sent it to my partner in Brazil. I was like, "Is this what I think it is? It's not just for the 4th of July. Like he's just like an outright fascist." And it's like, "Yeah, pretty much." So I went on that page, and then I was looking in the comments. I was like, to see all these fascists in jiu-jitsu, because I know they exist. I hear about like the Henzo Gracie ones, but I've never seen them on my feed. That was the first time. It was a surprise for me, like seeing people posting like Israeli flags, supporting Bolsonaro, talking about how shitty the Brazilian people on welfare are. It's like the Brazilian welfare system is kind of shitty, actually, but I don't know. So I really stumbled onto the fascists that everybody's talking about in jiu-jitsu. And then, how did I find these posts? I feel like I got onto the one article. So I sent Tim a couple articles. One of them, which one you want to talk about first? Let's talk
You
about.
pick, you pick, because I read through both of them, and it's just a lot of information. But like, you just pick. 'Cause
Let's
you,
talk about let's start with the history of Helio Gracie. So we always talk about, how it started, how it was systemic in jiu-jitsu because of the Gracie family, leading all the way back to Helio. And there was cited an interview that he did on Playboy. So I just went to the interview to look for the part of the interview where he says he called somebody a faggot and then fucked them up at a gym. So I went specifically looking for that hate crime. But Tim went through the whole damn interview and he was like, yo, this, I guess we can call him this nigga according to Renzo, but yeah. You want to tell him how you feel after you read everything?
All right, so there's a lot of things in this Playboy interview that they did with Helio Gracie all the way back in 2001 that is just so insane and just so, like, it's kind of troubling. I heard about, like, this interview from Playboy. It's pretty well known, like, in people in the know. It's pretty well known about like his background and being crazy. But there's some things that really are interesting. First and foremost with Helio, he is very much macho. He is the definition of toxic masculinity. Typically, I don't like using that because a lot of times people just say that normal masculine things or some things just that are just understood as being a man and are considered toxic but for no good reason. Just people just use it in the wrong terms. But this guy, whoa, extreme toxic masculinity. Like, first and foremost, this guy says that he only has sex when he's trying to procreate. Which, number one, stop the cap. I don't believe it. Like, you've only had sex in your life to procreate.
Yeah.
Um, I don't believe that. Because if that's the case, then after a while he would have stopped having sex because women can't have children after a certain age, and he was married twice. Um, he also said that women should not do jujitsu, kind of like he was just like women should serve men. Very toxic. Like, I come from a very independent woman household. Yeah, that's not cool. He definitely dropped the F bomb, and I'm not saying fuck. I'm talking about the FAG bomb.
Mhm.
Very toxic. And that besides all that stuff, he just out and out is very supportive of strongman dictators. This guy was a card carrying member and like a uniform member of the fascist party. I can't recall which one in Brazil, but he was definitely a prominent member of this party while in Brazil. And he just aligned himself with a lot of fascist dictators back in the day.
Hold on, I'm on my computer because I'm dropping some of these actual links into our Patreon. So if you're in the Patreon community, you can see the Playboy ad. I just clicked on the link I had on the outline about the one of fascism. That's actually in Portuguese. I'll drop that in the group either way because I know some of you are studying. But yeah, it was just like an organized fascist group in Brazil where he's seen like just they took pictures of him with the patch and he's in those groups. So it's like he definitely has that affiliation.
Uh, and a lot of times he out just are we just gonna talk about the fascist part or just the article in and of itself? Because there's some things that he just out and out lied about. One of the big ones was the one about Manuel Rufino dos Santos. He says that he was arrested, which he was. Him and his brothers were arrested for assaulting this guy named Manuel Rufino dos Santos, who was a luta libre champion, and I believe he's one of the only guys to beat up the Gracies back in the day. There's probably a video that we can link to in the Patreon as well to this, but he just says that, oh, I beat him up by myself, which is cap because I've seen several videos about that incident.
A lot of cap, a lot of cap.
You've seen the video too, right,
Mm-hmm.
Nico? He just out and out lies about that. And, he just talks about how his sons never use condoms. That was fucking nuts because he says, I'm just trying to procreate all the time. And then the interviewer was like, so you guys aren't worried about, AIDS? And they're like, well, AIDS are for people that are just have sex with anybody or just out and out dogs. And like the homophobic part of this whole conversation kind of tipped me off to how we would feel about this. Like, I kind of feel in a way he was trying to say that only gay people would get it and none of his sons are gay. He definitely talked about how he was disappointed in his sister because she became a nun. And he said that a woman's destiny or her purpose is to rear children.
Oh my
And
God.
what a waste.
Wow. Does he? Well, he clearly doesn't go to church then. I don't know.
I mean, it was just very off putting. And the guy just seems to me that he was insane. And yeah, he definitely supported fascists. Like in another article that you sent me, it links it to his ties with them throughout Brazilian history. And the Gracie family does have a lot of links to strongman dictators in South America. But, I mean, they kind of have a connection with Nazi sympathizers that live in the United States as well. Am I correct, Nico?
Yep, this is how we got into the whole thing. This one is what I definitely found on the Southpaw podcast, where they were posting an article about 88 tactics, militarized police, and a looming coup in Brazil. Is how I kind of, one of the things that I found out. No, that makes no sense. One of the ways that I found out about this in the articles that I was reading, but it talks about Tony Edwards, who is a black belt from a school in Texas.
Texas again.
Texas,
God
always
damn.
in Texas, and
Texas,
they were
by
saying,
God.
he is helping train the fascist legions that are down in Brazil. And he actually owns like a gun training center in Brazil and trains military people, which is like not something common. It's very weird that they would hire that out to the US, especially to a company that is called 88 Tactical. 88 is apparently a code word for Hail Hitler.
Yep.
One of their logo is like the eagle. It's an emblem of the Nazis. So there's like another article on that page, like Nebraska news again. I'll post that onto the Patreon, where it's a picture of Horace Gracie with Tony Edwards, and they're holding guns and talking about how they're supporting the potential coup that's going to happen for Independence Day. So it's kind of just crazy to see like that, just outright blatant, flagrant display of fuck everybody. So, yeah. Oh man, so that was interesting. So I went to Tony Edwards' pages. You know, when I talk about curating your content, what I was doing, like I was going through and I was seeing like some of the businesses that these people own. Like these are businesses that I will never frequent, although some of them were in Brazil. But this is how you really kind of start to see who people really are. Like if you see like in the comments, people at your gym that you're training with are posting Israeli flags, like, you know, maybe you want to start like become a Patreon member and do virtual jujitsu with him instead of going to an actual gym. But that was crazy. What do you feel about like 88 tech? Like, I don't know.
Um, just reiterate with the Helio Gracie thing. We should totally put the link to the video because a lot of I didn't know about this whole incident between him and the Luta Livre guy, Rufino, until a few years ago, because a lot of this is propaganda that we've been taught because of the way we came into jujitsu. Um, so a lot of the propaganda that we get kind of changes the history of the sport to suit the family and what they do. And I think it's very disappointing that we don't have more voices speaking out. And I remember when we first started the podcast together, you and I, back in summer of 2020, we got a book about the family's history from a very good source, and it was actually published. And since we want to have a book club later on for Bjj Goons, that should be like the first one we have.
Yeah, that's what's up.
As far as that is concerned, yeah, this is a part of the history of the family and links and ties to it that we don't really hear about. And I think the 88 Tactical is just another extension of that. I think that it matches a lot of the attitudes that we have in the United States. You know, we kind of had a similar situation to a strongman dictator or someone that admired other strongman dictators that was the president of the country not too long ago. And unfortunately, that those ideals go hand in hand with jiu-jitsu because jiu-jitsu is synonymous with the Gracie family, and that was their politics dating back to the early 20th century. So since they are the people that have kind of taken the helm of being the experts, the founders of jiu-jitsu. And when I read the article with Elio, I was kind of saying once again, stop the cap, because you're telling me that you came up with all these techniques, or you adapted all these techniques for like a armbar or Kimura and what have you, when judo was doing this for way longer. Jiu-jitsu is not just Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Catch wrestling, like our boy that was on the show not too long ago, Pabs, was saying, grappling has been around for centuries. So, you know, I'm saying stop the cap. Like, but these guys have made it so they're the authority, and since they agree with that, look at who they go after. They want to claim that they're the number one self-defense for the police. And as we've seen in this country, a lot of times, there are people within the police uniform and the police world that share very negative worldviews, that are very toxic worldviews, but they align with the kind of Gracie ideology. And I'm not throwing shade at the Gracies, but let's be honest. If a lot of the prominent members are quoting Nazis or saying that black people are lazy or using Black Lives Matter as like a terrorist group, it's going to make you look bad. So with that being said, I'm not surprised that they've linked up with 88 Tactical. And it's very troubling because, like you said, it's a link. Fascism, white supremacy, it doesn't know a border. These guys have the same ideology, and they're coming here. I think it was Omaha, Nebraska, correct? They go to this whole, like,
Bible
basically,
Belt, man. The Bible Belt. I feel for y'all
yeah,
living
I
over
do.
there, y'all. I feel for y'all. I am so sorry.
But, they go to these training centers, and one of the prominent members of this training center, he's advertising Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and they're in these social media posts with not Elio Gracie, I'm sorry, Hoist Gracie. And Hoist is getting like these honorary police badges from different places. And it just is very troubling, but I'm not surprised because white supremacy, fascism knows no border, and the link is so strong. And it's very just about strongman tactics, just the idea of masculinity, which I think it's right for men to know how to defend themselves. I'm all for you learning how to protect yourself and your family, your property by any means necessary, whether it be with learning SWAT tactics like they are learning at 88 Tactical. I'm all for you wanting to be a person that upholds justice and enforces the law. If it's just laws, of course, and if you're doing it the right way and not breaking the law, because police brutality, fascism is against everything we stand for as a nation, at least so they say. And, you know, I'm all for it, but at the same time, it's negative and it shouldn't be a part of jujitsu. And it explains why so much stuff in this country, in this sport is happening. It explains why people are okay with prominent members saying racist stuff all the time or being sexist. It explains why a sport that was founded or marketed as such by somebody like Elio, who's sexist or was sexist, homophobic, fascist, and then the stuff that happens with the fight sports situation is able to get swept under the rug, or people just ignore it or don't give a shit, because at the end of the day, culturally in Brazil, like you said a couple weeks ago on the pod, there is no real statutory rape down there. Mm-mm. And you bring it over here, it's just a cauldron, a melting pot of just negativity, and that becomes the culture of our sport, of the subculture. And I think that's why we're seeing such a clash within the sport now. Now you're seeing that, okay, you wanted it to be an all boys club, but jiu-jitsu, the martial arts, it always expands. The knowledge has gone to the point where we have not just wealthy people or people that are white or culturally white.
One thing, did you know Dream Art broke away from Alliance?
I called it that
because
it would happen.
Gugel is one of these people as well. I didn't know that. Like, I know, because that's why Today got kicked out. But my same partner, because he's messaging me right now. My partner is in Sao Paulo, and that's where TT was, and that's where Dream Art is. So he's like, did you know that they left? And like, it's always a money thing. I've always known Gugel didn't support social projects. That's why Today left Alliance 2 times over money. And then so yeah. When I didn't know, again, like Gugel was part of that. Like, it all leads into, present day jiu-jitsu, like that kind of thing. He's a huge fascist. He's a huge Bolsonaro fan. And I've known him for so long, or not known him personally, but didn't even know.
Yeah, so this is why we have the clash that we have in the sport. And that's why we get so much BS thrown our way. I'll give you an example. Like, the fight sports thing happened. But these guys have the same worldview and the same ideology. They're still linked to the same old boys club. But then you want to bring up my team and stuff that happened like 10 years ago. And like, you're going on some young girl's post that's on the team that's a minor and just talking shit. And you're like, oh, this is where it comes from. This is where the xenophobia and the racism comes into play. And then you have a clash now. There's like voices like ours, podcasts. There's people like Dominica. There's guys like Dom Hoskins that kind of go against it. But still, if you notice, a lot of the people that got a lot of attention in the sport are aligned with people that go back.
And you want something weird that happened from that same person that made that comment on Breezy, who's a young girl's post about like a rapist. I had DM'd him and I said, like, even like what you're saying, like, it wasn't Master Lloyd that was accused of rape. Then the incident you're talking to, it was 2 people from the team. And then he's like, look how you call him Master Lloyd. Like, that just shows the brainwashing. And I was like, no, it actually kind of just shows your disrespect, because I have about like 20 masters on my phone. From Master Lloyd, Master Donnie, Master Terere, Master Fabricio, my Grandmaster Mike Hess. Like, it's a form of respect. And like, I know the Gracies have a really big one, and people are like, "Oh no, you're not supposed to bow towards like the picture of Haley Gracie." But there are good and bad to like systems and respect. Like even at TLI, like when you come late, you need permission to bow onto the mats. Like, there's a very thin. I know there's a huge difference between brainwashing and that level of respect, but I feel like in jujitsu it kind of gets meshed together because if you don't know how to, what I always call in education, self advocate, like if you're not saying when something doesn't make you uncomfortable or there's like not a reason why something is happening, then that's how you get stuff like that happen in the
Absolutely.
Olympics. All these little girls that were being felt up with their mother right there. um it's crazy.
Super crazy. And that's what happens. You just let it slide or you just go along to get along, and it's very unfortunate. But I'm not surprised because now that we learn about the history of where it comes from and you see written down proof from a legitimate publication, like people used to make the joke about Playboy. Oh, I just read it for the articles. There's some pretty good articles in Playboy apparently if this is what we get, and it's 20 years ago almost. It's exactly 20 years ago since this episode that interview dropped. And like now we're seeing we're still going through the same issues. So, and my take from it is I'm not surprised, but it's very troubling because now it gets into the world of geopolitics
Hmm.
because now you see the link, and if you're teaching these potential insurrectionists jujitsu, and then you're gonna link it, like what's gonna happen?
And it's funny because before we were filming, like Tim had asked the question, and like we were talking about money. It's like, well, what do you think is the best thing that you could buy with or like invest in with $30,000? And I said real estate. My mom, who has to drive me around because I can't drive, she said education, and that's very true. Like that was very true. That hit hard. And then like even people like, and even if you're not investing in education, like reading books are free. Like when we said that y'all need to read some more books, we meant that from the bottom of our heart. So it's like in my readings this week, as I was blowing up on Ellen and um Hanad, like I got into like this great reading. I took all the context out of it because sometimes when you know the context, when you know it came from this place or that it comes from that place, then you shut down and you don't listen. So I took the context out, and it was just talking about what makes a good leader. And I'm going to read this. It says, people should be asking themselves these questions about the established schools. Did they benefit people or merely seek to bolster their own authority and power? Did these people did they lead people to happiness or co-sign them to misfortune? Did they combat the bad nature of power or collude with it? Leaders of these various schools deceive people with their seeming virtue and wisdom. Frauds are skilled at duping people. That is why the only solution lies with people becoming wiser. Right? So, how do you become wiser? How do you fix a situation like that? Like, if you think about how many of you have kids, how many of you would send your kids to a school that didn't have professional development? How many of you guys are educators? How many hours every year do you have to go through classes on sexual development, not on personal, professional development, on sexual abuse, on mandatory reporting, on holistic education, on what do we call that? Restorative circles. Like, so you got to think about it. We don't demand any of this from BJJ instructors. So, as a people, we need to have the education to demand higher from our community leaders to have them meet our needs and to be there to meet theirs. It's really hard, but like education, it really helps. You got to like think outside of the box and like challenge your children to think, and that's going to make them, children, adults, like more inquisitive and more willing to be like, hey, this doesn't seem right, maybe.
I think that in this day and age, being able to question authority should be at a premium. And that's the best way to fight situations in which it's oppressive, or in the case of, these people that do it, kind of fascist in a way. I'm serious. Like,
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about it. Like, if this is the history of the sport, if this is a mentality for a lot of the founders, or just as pervasive, it's gonna have to come from within that we say, yo, like, put your foot down and say, yo, you know, I'm gonna question everything. And I think a lot of times, even in this country that we live in, the United States, we don't question authority enough in a constructive way. questioning just to question, just to be contrarian or play devil's advocate, which, most of the time when people play devil's advocate, they're acting in bad faith. But, if we can positively do that and push back and say, yo, this ain't right or this is fishy, and not be afraid to step on toes, so be it. Because I have 2 points with this before I carry on. One, in jiu-jitsu, it is a service industry. It's not like we're in the military and it's a mandatory military service like we're in Korea, where like everyone has to serve 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you pay to do jujitsu. They're not paying you to do jujitsu. It's not like they're your parents. They are your coach. Yes. They're your instructor. Yes. They are your jujitsu instructor. Honestly, you should not look at them as your life coach. You know, my boy Greg Howell said this like back when people were trying to cancel the team. They said, "Listen, I came to learn jujitsu from Master Lloyd, not learn life from Pastor Lloyd."
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Right. And it's funny because even Master Lawyer will say like you should never have just one. And like so, I think of that in like streams of income. Like Saida quit her job to work for Master Lloyd, but Master Lloyd was my coach. He worked with business. There's no way in hell he was going to be like my source of finances. That would be putting everything on him. Like that. Like even he tells you don't do that shit.
So
Like
why would you do it?
I don't know. It's like that's important. Yeah.
And my second point that kind of puts a lot of this together is just because you are very well versed or great at one thing does not mean you're great at everything.
Mm-mm.
Even from my experience, I am good at jujitsu. And in jujitsu, there are certain things that I'm very good at. But sometimes people ask me life advice or ask me about things outside of jujitsu. And I have to say, like, yo, like, I'm not an expert at this. This is just my opinion, dog.
Mm-hmm.
Do not take what I say for gospel.
No, you always gotta. I think that's really important. We talked a little bit in past episodes about like the mind dump and how to organize things. And one of the big things that really helped me with the mind dump was like say everything that you have to do in business, or maybe everything that you need in life, and then you have to ascribe like the roles. Like, what is it? Is this like an educational goal? Is this like a work goal? Is this a hobby goal? Like, and if those are like maybe your three areas, like you can only focus on one of those areas at once. And I had to tell this to my partner in Brazil because, like, very clearly, like, we're going through training. I'm going through training with him now, and we're working on two areas of the company because there's so many areas of a company. I run everything by myself, so we're working on social media strategies and production. And through the production, he wants to add new products. And I was like, you keep mentioning all these products without realizing, like, he wants to have a rash guard, but there was no designer we talked about. So how are we going to start that product? You know. So in that process, he picked two things that he wanted to expand to, and that was supposed to be it. But then he came to me another day and he wanted to make something else. And I was like, "Look, last night we were working on content, which is not which is not social media strategy and it's not production. So we were already out of our focus. We were working on content." And then in the morning he messaged me about a bag. I was like, "Why are you talking about a bag when you could have finished the article?" Like, and he wants to get his salary paid off a bag. And I'm like, "You're never ever going to live off of selling t-shirts. And if you are, you're going to be fucking miserable." I was like, "You're going to, like, what's going to pay you more is me being able and you being able to do stuff that I need done so I don't have to do it, because I would pay expensive money for that." And I gave the example of Karine from Bjj Korea. So if you don't follow them, you should. And I was like, she sells no products. But over quarantine, I paid her out over $1,000 and sent her a MacBook because of the specialized knowledge that she has. I was like, just think about that. Like, why are you trying to make bags instead of like learning how to upload pictures to Google Drive because he couldn't do it? I was like, your focus is in the wrong spot. You can't do everything. And he's trying to do everything. I was like, anybody can sell a t-shirt, but not a lot of people in Brazil have specialized knowledge on sales. And that was like the main takeaway that he kind of started to get it.
Mm. That's real talk. That's some free game, as Lenny would say. We gave free game last episode. Shout
Lenny from Dream Chapers Coffee. Y'all need to go get some coffee. I just got a coffee grinder to coffee grinder to grind up his coffee. I got some.
I need to get one too. Um, this whole talk about specialization and knowing some things about knowing a lot about one thing, but not knowing a lot about other things and specialized knowledge. It's going to take me over to my Black Belt Wisdom segment. But before I go there, I need to give a shout out to our sponsors. We have two very special sponsors for the podcast, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here right now. First of all, I want to say a special, very special shout out to Blue Edge Business. Don't forget to check out our friends at Blue Edge Business for all your digital marketing, web development, and graphic design needs. They can help you with anything from Facebook and Google ads to website and landing pages. Tell them Tim Spriggs sent you. That's me. And get a very, very special discount. These guys helped me with my website, Nico. I got to say, for the longest time, I had a janky-ass website. Like, my website was ass. It was garbage.
It's a pain in the ass.
And I was using like Wix and all these other sites. And I'm like, I don't have specialized knowledge in this. I need to find somebody that can help me because I will never have a website at this rate. I went almost a decade of doing jiu-jitsu and traveling around the world, teaching and competing and doing videos and doing all this shit. And I didn't have a decent website. But now I do because of Federico at Blue Edge Business. That's why I always say, if you want a website, you got to find a professional. Don't do it yourself. If you're trying to be a jiu-jitsu world champion, if you're trying to be a content creator for jiu-jitsu, you need to focus on that. Like, you know how they have the 80-20 rule?
Yeah.
You get 80% of your success from the 20% of the things that you do.
Yeah.
If you are trying to be a world champion, 80% of your life is going to be 20%. You're going to get 80% of results from that 20% of what you do in life. All right. And that's a lot.
Ezekiel.
Yes, it has to be your thing. You're going to get 80% of your results from the 20% of things you do and vice versa. So make sure that if you're looking for a website, and you don't even have to be doing jiu-jitsu, like if you have a company like Lenny has, and Lenny has a very good website, but I would still suggest that he go to Blue Edge Business because they did the damn thing. I got like autoresponders. I have a way to track my appointments with people. So when people want to book me, all they got to do is go to my website. All that good shit is right there at timspriggsbjj.com because of Blue Edge Business. Also, our other sponsor, John's Fit Meals. Nico, this past week, I tried our new sponsor. I sent you the information because you have a nice promo code as well on there. You have to test it out. John's Fit Meals is a meal prep company, and I've never had a meal prep company before. I've never used the services before. No, correction. I did, and it was obviously forgettable, and it wasn't that great. It wasn't that great because it was super expensive. The food was not fulfilling to me. I didn't like it. It just seemed as though they just put some shit in a box, put it in dry ice, and sent it to me. Not with John's Fit Meals. John's Fit Meals is a meal prep company that has athletes in mind. I am an athlete. I'm not retired anymore, Nico. I am competing soon, and they have very good ingredients. They have quality meals. Every week they change their menu. They got breakfast food, lunch, dinner, and they even have desserts. And they're all super healthy. They're homemade. Like literally, they cook it for you, bag it up, and mail it to you. Or they actually go door to door. So John's Fit Meals will go to your door and deliver it. And all the food's good. I love their breakfast burritos. If I'm waking up early to go lift weights and I need food in my stomach, I need to be fulfilled. I need to be healthy. Gone are the days of going to fast food or Dunkin' in the morning. Gone are the days of me having to slave away in the kitchen, cooking myself some food. I just go to John's Fit Meals every week. I order. They send me my food. And they got the calories, they got the macros listed out on top of the food so you know what is in it. It's already pre-prepared. All you got to do is pop it in the microwave, heat it up. Man, it's saved my life. And, already eating that food, I feel like I'm getting swole. I'm looking swole. I'm putting on weight, and it's good weight.
It must be paying you because you won't stop talking about it.
I just love it
Damn.
so
All right.
much.
Okay. You really like John's. Where can they go? Tell them where they could
Go
go.
to johnsfitmeals.com.
All right. We're going to have to report you. So he's talking about all the details. You know, it had like, I had to 30 minutes in them carrots started making my vision better. You fuck with them. That's what's good. John's Fit Meals.
Yes.
Thing up.
Yes, you need to. So use promo code BJJ Goons when you place your order for a very special discount as well. So let's get to the Black Belt Wisdom. Today, this is in reference to what we said all episode. Just because you are good at one facet of the game does not mean you are good at everything, and that's okay. I'll give you an example. I am a master at takedowns in jiu-jitsu. I feel as though I'm a master at passing the guard. However, I'm not a master at playing guard, right? You know what I do, Nico? I defer to experts. I know you're wondering, like, why would I defer to experts? If I'm a black belt, I'm a black belt world champion.
No, you know what an expert once told me? Kick the girl and stand back up because you have no guard. Kick the girl away from you. Get the hell off the ground was what I was once told.
Wow, who told you that?
Eduardo Hockey, and it was beautiful advice.
That actually makes a lot of sense, and it really works a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's like if you don't know what to do in that position, don't be in it. At Tim's level, you need to figure out what to do. You can't just kick a black belt and like get away from them.
Well, I
And
mean, sometimes if you're in a sticky situation, like sometimes you're gonna have to. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Continue.
Yeah, no, just that. So what do you mean? Like, who do you go to? Like, does that mean like you try to like better up your guard or figure out ways to avoid using your guard?
I think as martial artists and as just humans, we kind of just get into this thing where I'm just good at all around jiu-jitsu. I'm a master at everything. You know, I get to a certain level, I get the brown or black belt. I don't need to learn all this stuff. None of this stuff is useful to me. I can figure it out. And for a long time, I figured that I could just figure it out on my own. But then you have to humble yourself and realize that you mastered jiu-jitsu, but you didn't master every part of it. So you have to learn. The learning never ends. You have to defer to experts. During this last summer, I really made it a point to humble myself and understand that I mastered jiu-jitsu, but there's a lot of things that I don't know, and I have to learn and defer to the experts so I can get better. So I know that there are parts of my game that need a fixing. And I'm not going to go into details but there are things that I knew that I had to work on, and I had to defer to an expert or somebody that could help me. And it made everything so much better for me. It made me a better martial artist. And a lot of times it helped me become a better person because I learned that I need help. Even at the highest level, no one has it figured out. Just because I've mastered takedowns, just because I've won a lot of tournaments, I don't know everything. And never be afraid to ask for help. Now, that's not just saying that you should accept unsolicited advice, but you should definitely reach out to someone that knows a little bit more than you, because we're always learning. And this relates to outside of jiu-jitsu, on the mat, to just the subculture. Like, just because a coach knows a lot about jiu-jitsu doesn't mean that they're your shrink. It doesn't mean that they're your pastor. You know, you have to use discernment. You know, the thing in jiu-jitsu is kind of like yoga. You know how yoga instructors are just kind of like this guru type status, and Master Lloyd would always talk about it. He's a guru in that aspect. But don't get it twisted. They probably don't know shit about anything else, or very little about other stuff. So defer to experts. Just because you're good at one aspect of jiu-jitsu, just because you're good at one aspect in life, does not mean you know everything about it. So that's my black belt wisdom.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Referring to experts is not you at home alone watching instructionals.
No, of course not. Because you need an expert to put it in terms that you can kind of understand. And even if it's an expert that you respect, like, here's the thing. How much time we have? Okay, here's the thing before we wrap. Okay. My problem with instructionals is this. It's just, it's a one-way instruction. It's only one way.
It's beautifully
It's
said.
being dictated to you. You need a coach. You need somebody to break it down for you, go with you, and go into the trenches with you so you can learn it. That's why you should get private lessons or a virtual coach like myself.
I love private lessons. Like, I absolutely hate seminars. I will rarely pay for a seminar because I don't think I learn a lot in them. A lot of times, if it's a really big one, the black belt just shows you a technique and they sit there talking to other people and they don't correct technique.
Ugh, those are the worst. I never do that, by the way.
Yeah, like, so I love, and I done a lot of translating of private classes in Brazil, so I see the benefit of it and I see the different styles, like private classes and a series of private classes, so that that person, like, you can't do everything in one time. Like, you got to work up through a series. So I think that's been the best way that I've seen people evolve, is a series of private lessons.
So speaking of private lessons, you can find me at timspriggsbjj.com, where you can get a private lesson either in person or virtual. You can have me as your virtual coach as far as creating a game plan for you. I make game plans for all my virtual clients. I watch your footage. I break it down. I look at the best techniques and positions that you have and put them in the form of a flow chart from the beginning of a match, which starts on the feet, to your best submissions in the form of a flow chart, so you know what to drill and what's going to lead you to victory. I also, when watching your matches, offer match critiques in which I'll watch your match and I'll give you a detailed breakdown in real time of me watching it, telling you what you should do. I pause the video for you. I draw it on a little, like John Madden with the magic pen, and I send it to you. And I also give you video examples from world-class black belts and exactly what I would like you to do. And of course, I teach seminars. I don't do the, I'm going to show you guys one move and then bullshit and chit chat with you. I go into detail what I found successful at the highest level. So just get me flued out. I'll be to your city. Just hit me up at timspriggsbjj.com. And of course, you can find me at timspriggsbjj on Instagram or Facebook. Nico, where can we find you?
Before I drop my little tags, one thing about something that you said was that you send back lists of things to drill based off your game. And, like, as a lower belt, I think that's kind of the most valuable, especially if you're in a training environment that's, like, not as competitive or not as serious if you'd like it to be. Knowing what you need to drill. Because one reason I don't like taking normal jujitsu classes is because I'm so used to, like, just drilling this thing that's in my game that I'm supposed to be working on. Because at TLI, everybody drills their own thing. There is no, like, whole class instruction. There's no whole class technique, right? So having a list of things that would be good to drill for your game that somebody pointed out, if your instructor can't do that for you, and I remember Nakapon couldn't do that for me when he refused to answer my questions about how to, like, establish side control when I was training for Europeans. He wouldn't answer those questions to me. Like, knowing that somebody can give you that feedback, and then you can go into the gym and be like, yo, you got like 5 minutes to drill, or can I do 10 reps of this on you before you roll out? That's a great one. Like, because, yeah, somebody might not want to drill with you after class, but if you go, yo, can I just do 10 reps? Can I just try this out real quick? Like, what dickhead is not going to give you 10 reps? You
That
know?
is true.
So I think that's a really valuable part of the game plan, is knowing that about your game. And if you can't get it from your teacher, then pay for it somehow. So you can find me on No New Nico at Instagram and Favela Jiu Jitsu everything. Favela is Favela Jiu Jitsu. That's favelajujitsu.com, where we're going to be having some new merch drop, and Instagram, where I've been posting a lot more highlights. And since I'm full-time content creator, there's probably going to be a lot more content coming out on favelajujitsu.com. Articles, like some of the highlights from the Dorsey brothers are up there from Pants. And that's actually really important because social media does not make you Googleable. Like, if I hate Rico because you can't find Rico on Instagram, and I think this is so unprofessional, so unprofessional. You cannot you can't look on Instagram for Rico Stanton because he keeps changing his handle to Project Astro or Astro something. He changes it every week. He's unfindable. So if you want to find Rico and he does some shit, I'll probably write an article about him on Favela Jiu-Jitsu. You can go there and find out what his new handle is.
That's probably the reason why I stopped doing all my AKAs, so people would know like who the fuck I am. Besides that, go to the Patreon at patreon.com/Bjj Goons. We got bonus episodes. We show techniques, and we have a Discord coming up. Very top secret Discord for all the BJJ Goons. Goonies
might
out
be out by
there.
the time we launch this, because we getting stuff in the bag ahead of time like responsible adults. Playing with a grabber while I say that.
So, guys, thanks for rolling with us. We'll see you next time. This has been another episode of the BJJ Goons podcast. Peace.